Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I cap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and it's the 5th of February 2025. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So a big day for the ETH ETFs today. I know the markets have been volatile over the last few days. I think they're just generally still digesting the Trump presidency. It hasn't even been a month yet since he's been president. I think it's, been a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, right, since he's been president. A lot of different headlines going on, and the markets are kind of tepid, especially the crypto market. Stock market seems to be okay, but the crypto markets are quite tepid around this. We had some fresh headlines, I think, about China putting some new tariffs on the US, but I mean, I don't think anyone really cares about that. It was just traders maybe taking advantage of a bit of the volatility. But regardless of all of that, the ETH ETF still had its biggest inflow day today I should say yesterday, of $307.8 million. So you can go to the Farside website here, which I've shown on the refuel before. And as I said, I don't know if this is the third or fourth biggest day in the ETH ETF history in terms of like inflows, but that's a pretty big inflow, especially considering the price went down so much, right? Like, you guys know that the ETH ETFs launched at a price of around 3,600, or when ETH was around $3,600, it began trading there. So for them to buy at around 27 to 2,800. I don't know, like, I feel like that's a confidence bet, right? That's this kind of big money TradFi plays being like, this is cheap, ETH is too cheap here, we should buy some ETH here. And of course, I get the usual questions whenever I tweet about this, people asking, why isn't the price moving, so on and so forth. And I've explained all this before on the refuel, but TLDR, it's not that simple. It's not just like these entities are going to buy $300 million worth of ETH and the price is going to go up when they do that, especially considering that even though this is a large amount of money, ETH's market cap is $330 billion after the crash, right? So $300 million is not a lot when you compare that to that market cap there. It's like, 0.1% or something like that. So yeah, it's not really going to move the price too much. But the whole point, obviously, of the ETFs is their cumulative effect here. And if you actually look here at the cumulative flow into the ETH spot ETFs, it's many, many billions of dollars. You can see here in BlackRock's ETH ETF, I believe, it's here. So they have a total inflow of $4.4 billion here, Fidelity at $1.5 billion, and then a few hundred million between the other ETFs here as well. And then, of course, Grayscale's ETH has a lot of ETH sitting in it still, even though it's had a bunch of outflows. You can see that on the chart here as well. And you can kind of see what the ETH outflows have been versus GBTC. Kind of followed the same kind of path and seems to be leveling out a little bit higher than GBTC, but the same kind of thing happened there. Now, in terms of what this looks like going forward, I don't know. Like, does this trend continue, right? Do people think, or does the TradFi world think that ETH is at a discount here? I think ETH's at a discount here, and that's not investment advice, but I do think it is quite cheap around these levels, right? And I think that with the new kind of arm that we have making inroads into Wall Street and into TradFi with Etherealize, with Consensus, I guess, like, stepping up to the plate again, they've become a lot more active lately, and also kind of other things going on in the Ethereum ecosystem to reach out to these TradFi people and reach out to these Wall Street people. I think that we're going to see a kind of like resurgence here. And yeah, I don't know, like, I know that everything has been kind of gloomy because of the market action. I know that ETH's been kind of gloomy especially, but I'm still feeling really bullish about things, guys. And maybe that's because I take like a longer term view here. I try not to pay too much attention to the short term, but yeah, we'll have to see how that goes and how these inflows continue here. It was funny because the BTC ETFs have also had strong inflows lately as well. The day before yesterday, they had a net outflow, I should say. Today they only had a big inflow from BlackRock, but BlackRock actually had more ETH inflow than BTC inflow. For BTC they had 250 million, for ETH they had 276 million. So yeah, there is definitely an appetite there for ETH. It's not like ETH is not an asset that people want to buy. And one last thing I'll say about this is that when prices tend to crash like they do, where essentially if you're like someone with a lot of money and you want to get into an ETH position, when price crashes like that, that's probably a better way for you to kind of get an entry than trying to buy on the market where things are either going sideways or up, because your buys are going to have less of an effect on the price, which means you're going to get a better entry for your order. So for example, let's say someone wants to buy $1 billion worth of ETH, right? Well, if you want to do that really quickly, you can go OTC, but that has an effect as well, because I don't know what the OTC markets are like, but I very much doubt there's many OTC brokers out there that would have $1 billion of ETH waiting for you to buy, right? I don't think there's going to be that many out there. So they're probably going to have to source that from different places. That's definitely going to be felt by the market. But if you want to get into ETH really quickly and you have $1 billion, then the better way to do it is wait for, I mean, if you've got an appetite to wait here, the better way to do it is do it during those mass capitulation events, those mass kind of liquidation events, where essentially you're like, well, okay, there's a lot of liquidations going on here. There's a lot of liquidity coming in. Because of this, I'm going to buy the blood, so to speak, because I was going to open this position anyway. So this seems like a good time for me to do that. So yeah, I think there is elements of that going on for sure, because as a bigger player, like not everyone's like Sailor, where Sailor has, no, I guess like worry about where he buys. He'll buy the local tops, he doesn't care, right? But most people, pretty much everyone else isn't like that, doesn't have what I guess like the money printer, you could say, that Sailor has, and isn't a crazy billionaire like Sailor. And a lot of them it's not their own money either, right? They're managing other people's money, so they can't be cowboys with it. So when you take that into account, you can kind of see why these things can be opportunities for people. But anyway, we'll see how these flows continue as time goes on. All right, so Alexander Grieve here from Paradigm tweeted out that the new new SEC commissioner, the existing SEC commissioner Hester Peirce, announced the initial list of priorities for the SEC crypto task force and what they'll tackle here. So these priorities include the security and commodity status of crypto assets. That's basically number one, I think. You can see here on this list here. Yeah, that's number one, which it should be, because there's just like zero clarity around this for most people. They want to identify areas outside of the SEC's purview and define them as such, no action letters, etc. They want to look at token offerings. They want to potentially issue a safe harbor, which means that you can do your token offering, and then if you potentially like decentralize over time, then your token will not be classified as a security later on. They want to do registered offerings, of course. They want to do custody for investment advisors, and so on and so forth. Here, you can read this whole list. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But the reason why I'm bringing this up today is because, well, not today, but just generally, is because, as Alexander says here, this is a complete 180 of the SEC under Democratic leadership. Obviously, as we know, under the Democrats, the SEC was incredibly hostile towards crypto. Gary Gensler very much was on the warpath against crypto for whatever reason. And they stonewalled pretty much everything. They went after all of the top crypto companies with just baseless lawsuits and subpoenas, which all seems to be being reversed at this point. They haven't been pulled yet, like the cases haven't been withdrawn yet, but honestly, like I think they're either going to get withdrawn or just like left to wither on the vine and die off on their own. I don't see this current SEC under the current leadership that it has continuing on with those lawsuits and wanting to pursue that there. And I don't see them bringing forward actions on any other companies unless they're doing something blatantly illegal and blatantly in violation of securities laws. But hey, I don't think many people are doing that, and the ones that are, I mean, they're doing it in a very kind of, I guess, like loud way, and they usually get caught, if not by the SEC, but like by the Department of Justice or something like that, because they're doing more than just securities fraud. They're doing like literal, actual fraud, right? I mean, securities fraud is fraud, but you know what I mean. Like they're not only creating like an unregistered security, for example, but they're taking people's money, they're scamming people out of their money, and so on and so forth. So really, really cool to see that the SEC is finally in the hands of some, I guess, leadership that doesn't hate crypto and actually embraces crypto. So we're gonna have to see. But this is what I was saying leading up to the election when I said, if Trump won and the SEC became more crypto friendly, I don't want to just have people talking about how friendly the SEC is and the SEC saying, "Well, we love crypto." I want to see action, and this is action right here, guys. Like this is basically Hester Peirce saying, "This is what we're going to tackle. This is what we're going to do for the foreseeable future, and this is how we're going to make the crypto ecosystem a lot better in the US," which is always good to see here. But anyway, you can read the full list. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so the gas limit on Ethereum L1 has been increased to 36 million. You can see here on Tony's website that the gas limit signaling went over 50%. I think it's around 50%. It's like going a little bit under. going a little bit above as time goes on, but we have a gas increase now, which is a 20% block space capacity increase. It went from 30 million to 36 million here. And this is only step one, guys. Like, there are more gas limit increases coming, especially over the next 12 to 24 months. It's going to become potentially exponential in terms of how we increase these gas limits, in terms of how we increase the gas limit. And I've talked about this in the past, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of the stuff that I've said in the past here. But Trent said, what's next here after this in the immediate future? Well, the Pectra upgrade is going live in March. We're going to get more blobs. We're going to get superpowered EOAs, aka account abstraction with EIP 7702, validator improvements with EIP 7251, which is, of course, the max EB EIP. We've got history expiry going live on May 1st, or at least the first phase of that. That does not require a hard fork. That is just going to happen on May 1st. The clients are all in agreement about this, and that's going to be great for keeping the chain size bounded, essentially, or at least somewhat bounded, especially in the face of a 20% increase in the chain size, which is effectively what a gas limit increase is. And then we've got the Fusaka upgrade, which is slated for around Q3 so far, or at least estimated to go live in Q3, which is going to include PeerDAS, which gives us a lot more blobs, and potentially EOF, which is the set of EIPs that has been in the works for years now, and that's probably going to make it in alongside PeerDAS there. So a lot to look forward to on the Ethereum scalability front, guys, not just here, but into the future as well. There are so many more L1 scalability upgrades coming. There are lots of new L2s going live as well. Unichain's going live soon, if you've forgotten. MegaETH is going to go live soon. Rise is going to go live. Like, these kind of like high performance L2s are going live. We've got based and native rollup stuff happening. And this is all happening in parallel to scaling up the scaling up the L1 for L1 itself, so for the normal L1 transactions, but also for blobs, which obviously apply to L2s. So a lot of great stuff happening there. But anyway, I'll keep an eye on the gas limit signaling. Hopefully we can get this up to most of the network doing this, and then from then on, we can increase it higher than 36 million. All right, speaking of PeerDAS, you can see here that Manu has put together a really nice document all about PeerDAS. Now, I do want to warn you that this is quite technical. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not something that's going to hold your hand and explain to you what PeerDAS is, what blobs are, what sharding is, what KZG commitments are, so on and so forth. It'll give you an overview, but then it'll dive deep into the technicals of how this all works. As you can see on my screen, this, as I said, is not for the faint of heart. But the reason why I wanted to, bring this up is because it's still worth reading it. It's still worth getting your head around this stuff as part of just your wider knowledge base for blobs, for PeerDAS, and to get really excited about what's coming. Because when I read these technical things, obviously I don't understand everything. As you guys know, I'm not like super technical or anything like that. I'm not a core developer, but just reading this gives me a better idea of how core developers are thinking about this, what blobs are going to look like with PeerDAS and going forward, and what we can expect in terms of scalability increases for the L2s. Because a common criticism of Ethereum DA and Ethereum rollups generally is the fact that we don't have enough blobs. And I agree with that criticism. We do not have enough blobs to serve the current rollups, let alone the rollups that are going to be going live and using ETH DA coming very soon. Unichain's going live, as I said, very soon there. I know that MegaETH and Rise are using off-chain DA, but honestly, like, if we can get it so that they don't have to use off-chain DA, that would be a really huge win for Ethereum as well, of course. And that's the whole point of scaling up blobs, getting things like PeerDAS in, and making sure that we can keep Ethereum DA competitive. And from my understanding of this as well, you actually do need to use Ethereum DA if you want to be like a based and native rollup. You can be based without Ethereum DA, from my understanding, but to really get the superpowers of based and native rollups, you need to have a unified settlement layer. And what that means is that you need to have your proofs and your data posting to the same L1. Otherwise, the other rollups out there, or the other L2s out there, are not going to want to interoperate with you because they can't trust that you won't be reorged by something else happening off chain. But they can trust that if you are on the same settlement layer as them, then you're all under the same conditions. You're all under the same rule set. So they can trust that if a reorg happens, it happens to everyone, because the reorg would be on Ethereum L1. The reorg would not be on some other DA layer or some other L1, for example. And that's really the superpower that we get from based on native rollups. But in order to inherit those kind of powers there, you do need to have unified settlement, which is, I think, what we're going to get, hopefully, with like most of the rollups settling to Ethereum because we've scaled blobs for them there. But anyway, you can go give this a read for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so I put out a tweet last night before I went to bed, and maybe I shouldn't have gone to bed after putting this out because it kind of blew up. But I essentially put out a tweet asking people which of these three powered by Ethereum logos do they like best, and we're kind of finalizing this little branding push that I had started back in around a DevCon here. Now, the reason it blew up was, I guess, two reasons. One, everyone kind of picked what one they liked best out of the three. But two, I think people got the wrong idea about what this is and started criticizing it and started coming at me saying, you know, this is really stupid. Like, what brand agency did this? You know, this doesn't look like anything serious, blah, blah, blah. And the point I want to just clarify today is that yes, it is not anything that's meant to be like super serious. It is not it's not like a really organized effort where we do, you know, branding meetings and we do user interviews and anything like that. This is literally me and a few killer people in a Telegram group going back and forth on some designs for a powered by Ethereum badge that projects can put on their website if they want to or not. That was it. There is no grand plan here. This wasn't supposed to replace any Ethereum branding. It was supposed to complement the existing branding. It was a fun little side project that I was involved in. But then people just thought that this was so much more than what it was, which was very puzzling to me, considering that I had tweeted about this before. But I guess like armchair critics are everywhere, right? And I clarified this in my follow-up tweet here because a lot of people also thought that this had something to do with the Ethereum Foundation, which again is bizarre to me, considering that I never mentioned the Ethereum Foundation in any of my tweets. But yeah, no, it doesn't have anything to do with the EF. As I said, it's me and a few other people. I don't want to dox who's involved with this. Just in case they don't want to be doxxed, especially after the fact that everyone just shit all over their work. Not everyone, but a bunch of people shit all over their work. But it is a bunch of really cool people that have been working on this. You'll know a lot of their names if I was to say them, but again, I'm not going to dox these people. It's just been really cool working with them. And as I said, it's a side casual project. There is no big brand agency working on this. Everyone that's worked on this has worked on it for free. There's no money being given to anyone here. No one's making any money from this. And I've explained before that we went with powered by instead of like secured by or built on, because secured by can be very misleading. Like, yes, the L2s in their end state are secured by Ethereum, but a lot of L2s today are secured by multi-sigs, so they don't deserve to have secured by Ethereum on their website, right? That's just misleading to users. The built-on thing, the built-on was done 6 years ago as part of ETH, so I wanted to kind of go in a different direction, and really built-on doesn't kind of capture everything. I feel like powered by captures everything, and yeah, that's why I went with that. That's why I went with that there. And really the spirit of this kind of initiative was to copy the Intel Inside kind of branding that they did for a while there, where everyone knew that as soon as they saw that sticker, it was a mark of quality, right? It was a mark of, oh, okay, they've got an Intel processor, their computer must be good, sort of thing. Because that's what I thought when I was growing up and I saw Intel. I'm like, Intel. These days I actually run AMD CPUs in most of my boxes that I have. My main PC that sits right behind me, the one I do all my work on and do all my shit posting on, that runs an AMD CPU, and I've had no issues with it at all. But back in the day, Intel was king. Intel Inside was their way of making sure everyone knew they were king. So that was my idea behind powered by Ethereum, because I wanted people to know that this is a mark of quality. This app is on Ethereum. It's part of the Ethereum ecosystem. Ethereum only has, the best. We service the best. We have the best apps and things like that. So anyway, the fallout of all of this was basically that I told people, if you've got a better idea, if you think you can design something better, DM it to me, or if you want to get involved, you can. And a few people have gotten involved. They've joined the Telegram group already, and they've got their own kind of graphic designers on it, and they're working on it in the background. I love that. I love that because it's more than yapping. I hate people who just yap all the time and just talk all the time. Like, I'm out here doing stuff, and then I get criticized by people who do nothing. Like, I'm sorry, but that just annoys me. And I know I'm being a little bit ranty here, but it really annoys me when I see the same people just constantly critiquing things on Twitter, and they do nothing. They do nothing to improve the situation at all. Like, yes, constructive criticism is good, but if all you do is criticize things and you don't actually do anything to make it better or to help the ecosystem, then really you're part of the problem, I think. Because everyone's always going on about, you can just do things, you should just do things. Well, I'm just doing things, and people are getting annoyed at me for doing things or having their, like, having their opinion on things. And I do realize that when it comes to, like, graphic design, it can be incredibly subjective, and really, you probably shouldn't be asking a wide set of people their opinions on different kind of graphic design things. It should be more targeted. So maybe my bad there. But generally, people just get so, like, I don't know, just get so aggressive about these things. It's literally like a fun little project that I worked on with some people. It's a choice between 3 different logos, guys. It's not some huge thing that's going to make or break Ethereum. I don't know if people took this so seriously, making it out as if it was so much bigger than what it is. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to rant too much about this, but it kind of annoyed me, to be honest, right? It just kind of annoyed me to read all the comments when I woke up, because I woke up to this, of course, and just be like, guys, like, why are you taking it so seriously? Like, go focus your energy somewhere else, or at least go do something if you're this passionate about graphic design, right? So anyway, enough ranting about that. That was just some clarity for you guys out there. I am still working on the Powered by Ethereum designs here. Honestly, we're probably just going to release what we've got and release the Figma files, and people can just iterate on them if they want. We'll have a web page up for it. People can go download it, do whatever they want with it. The whole thing is just to get this on project websites to make sure that people know that the project or the app that they're interacting with is powered by Ethereum. All right, so MegaETH has announced essentially what is their ICO. So this was announced, I think, a couple of hours ago, so I'm still digesting it myself, and I'm digesting everyone's comments around this. But they're doing this in a similar way to how Infinix did it with NFTs. So they're going to be doing this NFT collection called the Fluffle. So there's going to be 10,000 soul-bound NFTs that represent meaningful ownership in the MegaETH network. I believe they're allocating 5% of the token supply towards this, and they whitelisted around 80,000 addresses to mint these NFTs. The sale happens in a week. It's 1 ETH per NFT if you want to mint it here. I don't know what the limit is. I think you only get maybe 1 NFT per whitelisted address that you have. So I think the demand for this is going to be through the roof, of course. I should disclose here that I invested in one of MegaETH's private funding rounds a while back. I am whitelisted for this as well, so I do plan on sassel.eth. So I do plan to participate if I can. As I said, there's not enough NFTs to go around, so I don't know what it's going to be like in terms of bidding wars. If this is on mainnet, you're going to see mainnet gas spike to some ridiculous level. But yeah, this is basically an ICO that they're doing here, which I love. As you guys know, I've been a really, really big fan of projects doing more public kind of NFT sales or token sales for their projects here. Infinix did it with the Patreon NFT. There's been more projects doing it on places like Echo and Legion, which aren't, I guess, like public, so to speak, but they are open to a lot more investors than most other things. But my real kind of hope is that most of the ecosystem gets back to doing ICOs like this. And that brings me to the other thing I wanted to talk about, which was some of the reactions I saw to this. People were getting upset and saying, wow, like you're charging 1 ETH per NFT. This is ridiculous. That's a really high price. How is anyone going to expect to get any return from this? And I looked at that, and then I looked at the fact that effectively what you're buying here is, as I said, tokens. The NFTs is just like a representation of those tokens, and it's at a $550 million fully diluted value for one of the, I guess, most hyped up projects in the Ethereum ecosystem, which is MegaETH, and obviously, honestly, in the crypto ecosystem generally here. So I don't understand why people have an issue with this. Like, do you know how many VCs would fall over themselves to get into MegaETH at a $550 million fully diluted valuation? Like, comp that to the other L2s out there that have multi-billion-dollar valuations, guys. And as I said, MegaETH has a lot of hype behind it. And I'm not trying to pump my own bags here because, as I disclosed before, I am an investor in MegaETH. But I just felt that the replies to this were just utterly bizarre. Like, everyone wants access to these things. They don't want VCs getting the whole thing. And then MegaETH comes along and says, hey, we're going to give you access. We're going to make it more public. And they did an echo round as well, mind you. But they're like, we're going to make it more public. We're going to let more people get involved. And then the first reaction is that, oh, you guys are charging too much for these NFTs. This is crazy. That's a high valuation. It's like, it's not though. Like, you got to contextualize these things. So I think that because we haven't had ICOs for so long, the newer people that got in, like even after, I guess you could say 2019, I would say. Anyone who got in after 2019 does not remember what ICOs were really like, does not remember how people were going absolutely bananas for ICOs. They loved it. And yes, a lot of them were scams, a lot of them went nowhere, but that is actually true of a lot of just VC investing generally. No, they may not necessarily be like straight up scams, but a lot of them go nowhere, guys. Like most of the projects end up either returning the money to investors or burning through all their money and just shutting down. It's not a very like high success rate. If you invest in 100 companies as a VC or 100 companies or 100 projects as an angel investor, for example, your hit rate there is going to be quite low. You're just hoping that the ones that do hit hard and they make up for the rest of everything else. That's essentially what the playbook is here. So there's no guarantee you're going to get any returns on anything, but the fact that you can get into MegaETH at a $550 million fully diluted valuation when the comp for similar kind of, I guess, like things like other L2s out there are multi-billion dollar valuations, I don't know. That seems like a no-brainer to me. As I said, I am going to participate in this NFT sale if I can. I am going to buy one of these NFTs. Even though I'm already invested as an angel, I want more exposure to MegaETH. I think that they're going to be a really big deal. I've been bullish on them since day one. I think they're going to do wonders for the Ethereum L2 ecosystem, especially, and the Ethereum ecosystem generally. So I'm going to participate in it. But yeah, I just thought it was a bit bizarre to see people complaining, especially when people have been asking for this. Like they're asking for more public sales. They're asking to be let into these rounds. And I don't think people realize that the later rounds for these things, especially for L2s and L1s, they are normally done at multi-billion dollar valuations. I actually participated in the optimism round. This was a while ago now. I think it was like 2 to 3 years ago, and it was at a $1.5 billion valuation, I believe. And they had so much interest at that valuation. This was years ago, before L2s were as hot as they are today. So you really need to keep in mind that the latter stages, the latter, I guess, like raises before these L2s go live, are definitely done at multi-billion dollar valuations. So being able to get in at 550 million fully diluted is a pretty big deal, I think. But anyway, as I said, not trying to shill my bags, just want to contextualize things for people so that they understand what is a good deal versus what is a bad deal. And again, this does not guarantee you're going to make any money here. I'm not saying buy it because you're going to make a 10x or anything like that. Please don't read into that. I'm not even telling you to buy it. Like, it's up to you if you want to buy it or not. But I am bullish on them, and I am bullish on a lot of other projects in crypto as well, whether I'm invested in it or not. But I'm really excited to see how we continue to evolve the ICOs in the ecosystem, these public token sales. As I said, the Infonex pioneered it with the Patreon NFTs. You got MegaETH doing it now. There are other projects that have been doing this as well, that have been, a bit smaller, but they are doing it. And I hope to see more projects doing this as time goes on. All right, last up here, the ZKP2P version 2 has been released. So I remember I highlighted ZKP2P a little while ago. A bunch of people that I used to work with at Set Protocol are building this, and they've been building it for a little while now. But just to give you a refresher on what this is, it's basically a trust minimized way to on and off ramp via P2P into and out of crypto. And this is settled on Base, of course, on the Base L2 here. So you can see here that you can on-ramp to USDC, ETH, or CBBTC and more across any chain using Venmo, Cash App, Wise, or Revolut. No fees, no extra ID checks, and in under 60 seconds. And they have a video here of what that looks like. So essentially, you select your token on your chain that you want. You can send in fiat. So in this case, they're sending in 15 USD. They're signing a transaction. You basically send it through your Venmo. You can see here in the video. I'm just skipping through the video, but you can watch it. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. And then it verifies your payment using ZK proofs, completes the order, and all done in less than 60 seconds. So you get a nice little onboarding experience there. What I see this being really good for, because there's obviously like very kind of harsh limits on these things. You can't do like tens of thousands of dollars of onboarding. I don't even know what the limit is right now, but I think it's only maybe a few $100s. But what this is really good for is essentially topping up your account with money if you need to pay for gas fees, for example. So let's just say you're on Base right now and you don't have any ETH. You've only got USDC. There are other services that you can use to pay the fees in USDC, which just gets kind of abstracted away in the background. But there's usually pretty high fees on that, honestly, at this point in time. And it's usually done through a third party service provider that you may or may not trust, or you may or may not be integrated with as part of your, I guess, transaction flow. Whereas with something like this, what you can do is just top up your account essentially with ZK do it in a trust minimized way, and you don't need to do much. You can send like $10, not even, you can send less than that of money into this to get the gas that you need, and then you can go and be on your merry way from there, which I thought was a pretty cool use case there. But there are also tons of other use cases here, such as doing peer-to-peer payments, right? Paying someone, and if they say, hey, just pay me in crypto, you're like, damn, I don't have crypto right now, but hey, what I can do is I can use ZK just give me your address here, and then it's all settled on chain for them, and they can access it there. So really cool to see V2 of ZK go live. You can go check it out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, but I think that's going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all on Friday. Thanks everyone.